Okay, so hello everyone. Wonderful to see you for another month. Can you believe how quickly that goes? It's a month just like that. We're here. We're here in May, middle of May, and middle of sort of May is one of those months, isn't it? It's just a bit transitional. That's a transitional month, isn't it? We're sort of caught between a couple of seasons, but always good to be here with you guys. It's always, no matter what it's like outside, it's always warm in here, catching up with winners. So good to see you all. Well, who wants to start? Who wants to kick us off? Why don't we just rock straight into it and hear from what you're up to, what you're doing, where you're at? Who wants to start? Seriously,
Yeah,
I will.
you guys got to settle down. This week.
I will.
Good, Sue. Thank you.
I can never handle pregnant pauses for too long. I've got to jump in.
Got to fill the void.
I've got to fill the void. Justin and I have finished our second time through our second draft of our manuscript, and we had our conversation with Andrew this morning, and he passed on Julie's details, and I have sent it to Julie to do a manuscript assessment. Andrew, she said she will look over it briefly and then get back with a quote. That's it. And so I'm waiting, and Justin, we're waiting with bated breath for that.
Okay.
Hopefully, when she said look over it, she's not too busy, and that she will have time to do it for us.
Awesome.
So that's where we are. We're pretty excited now. We can take our foot off the pedal perhaps a little bit, since it's been a full-on 4 months of riding every day for us too. That's why we got to this line. That's what we promised each other. And that's, again, I feel the habit share, and Justin and I are two people. I know you've got to be fortunate to get the other person that you can work well with, which we, Justin and I, had the advantage of having spent a year and a half in a coaching situation together. So we had really got to know each other well before we decided to write a book together. But it certainly has been great. Not only accountability, but I know I made you laugh last time when Justin writes at night time and I write in the morning. So when I get up, another chapter's there by a miracle. And I hope Justin has the same feeling, that as he goes towards the evening, there's another chapter. So that was always the exciting bit, to see what each other had done, and push each other on with that sort of freshness. So thank you. That's where we are.
That's a great report. Well done. Well done. So 4 months it took for you to get it to this point, which probably some people sitting here wanting to slap you, going, "How did you do that?" No.
It's only 1,500 words, the whole book.
You lie.
What was that?
Oh, so it's a children's book and you need an illustrator then, is that
right? Jokes aside, it's not anything miraculous. It's two people at the desk every day for a designated amount of time, come hell or high water.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I think that's the power.
Is that miraculous? Is it?
I think that's the power of that collaboration and that accountability and that linking arms with someone. You guys have decided to do it together, so it's almost like, well, you don't let each other down, and you work well together, and it's a goal together, and it's well, that just twin powers connect, and boom, this is what can happen. And that's, you guys, that's a fortunate thing. You've been able to bounce off each other, and which is an awesome thing. And that's why collaboration or accountability partner, I believe, is such an important part of this process. It can really speed things up. So if you don't have one and you're feeling a bit stuck, it's a good time to reach out and say, "Hey, help." Well done. That's awesome. So
Thank
exciting.
you.
Anyone else want to share thoughts and ideas?
Okay, I will. Well, congratulations, Sue and Justin. Amazing. I'm going through an interesting process at the moment. So working with a publisher in Canada. So I say a South African born Australian living in Italy, working with a Canadian publisher, kind of got all continents covered. One of the interesting things has been, because obviously it's also a Canadian editor who's going through the book, has been the different versions of the English language. And expressions and cliches and all of that kind of stuff. So it's something I'm finding quite useful, because at times things that I have seen as totally obvious in terms of expressions and words are not necessarily obvious to anybody else, let alone another culture. But it's also been quite frustrating, because there's times I feel like I'm being led or encouraged to tell people how to suck eggs. So I'm finding that quite an interesting challenge, because I also went to a book club here in Italy. It's one of the things you do when you're in Italy. You find anything where there's English speakers getting together. I went to a book club, and the book that they were reviewing, they were actually saying they were frustrated with the author because they felt there were times he was not letting them use their brains and was telling them how to suck eggs. So I'm finding that sort of interesting balance between, where do I let people kind of work out things for themselves or use context or whatever, and where do I actually explain and do things, particularly because of this cultural context. I don't know if anybody's got sort of any experiences or thoughts or whatever on that. I'd be really
Where do you
interested to
think
hear.
the book is going to primarily be sold?
I think it could be sold in anywhere, really, because it's got global experiences in it. It could be sold. I mean, I'd envisage actually doing something in Australia. I'm not sure about South Africa, in Italy, and probably in Canada. So it could be sold in all of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I don't know what do we think? Because I mean, the differences are certainly spelling. Do the Canadians and I'm not sure the Canadians and Americans, because I know the Americans, they use Z a lot more.
Yeah.
S, as in like
Look,
stabilize. And is that the same in Canada?
they don't. I'm just trying to think. There's one that they use that's the same, and one that's different, and I can't remember. But there's some of those kinds of things that the Americans use. It's not so much actually the spelling, because we can decide on which approach to take, and so that one hasn't been so much. It's just funny how, I mean, and an example that we had the other day, which is probably not so much a language or cultural thing, it's what people's experiences. I put something about getting a transfer from the airport, and came back and said, "Oh, the Americans and Canadians wouldn't typically use that word transfer." And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And so I actually ended up doing a reset. I sent out a thing to about 10 people, a WhatsApp to 10 people I knew from around the world, some that had traveled, some that hadn't. And it was interesting how some people knew the word transfer. Some people said, actually, we wouldn't use that in where we are. And that included somebody from the UK. So it's not even only I guess, the differences in terms of cultural differences, but it's just each of us having different terms and cliches and stuff that we use. So how far do we go in terms of working out what it means? I mean, another example that is probably more specific to something I was doing with bear boating, which that was good, because I realized that not everybody knows that bear boating is chartering a boat and going and sailing around the place. But, so it's not only, it's partly the differences between Canada and elsewhere, but it's partly just how much of our terminology that we would use, even Justin and Sue, when they were writing their book, is stuff that we assume is a term that everybody else knows, but it's not necessarily something that everybody knows just because we do.
Does a glossary make sense at all in some ways, that you kind of had 20 little terms in the back there?
I think there's more than the glossary would be longer than the book.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Because that's the thing, is which of those things would I choose to put in the glossary? because if I don't know that other people wouldn't understand them. So how far do you go in terms of which words you know other people don't understand?
I think what you do is you find a word that any culture, English-speaking culture, would recognise. I mean, for the transfer, what word would they use instead of transfer?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Well, it actually doesn't end up at word; it ends up at description in most instances. And I mean, that was just one. I probably took us a bit down a rabbit hole, but that was just an example. But a lot of the time, it's not replacing it with a word. It's actually putting a description. Well, and that's fine. I'm happy to do that. But I guess it's interesting because then I go back to my book club people. If I put a description behind everything, they'd say, "Stop telling me how to suck eggs. I know what a transfer is." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting. It's not so much that I'm just interested in people's thoughts and whether they've come across anything or how they've actually found they've approached that balance between using, cliches, using expressions, using words versus explaining every word or every expression that they would put in.
Can I just ask what type of book is it, Glenda? Is it a technical book or a novel, or what is it that you've written? That because I'm just thinking from a English teacher's point of view.
It's a self-help / memoir.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, I'm sounding very Australian here, but half the time we've had to accommodate to an English or a US written book, and we take it in our stride. Am I right, fellow Australians? We go, this is what this might mean in the context of what the person is writing, and it'd have to be for me a very esoteric or oblique sort of term that I wouldn't be able to work out from the context, I would think, Glenda.
I think you've actually just summarized the problem, to be honest. I'm Australian too. So I think you've summarized the problem, to be honest, is being surrounded by, and pardon to any Americans in the audience. It's something that I'm surrounded by a lot of Americans here, is I do find that a lot of the time the Americans find it a lot harder to contextualize. And they do take things a lot more literally. So I think that's why I'm finding it quite challenging, because she'll come up with a comment on some terminology, and it's like, yeah, you may not know it, but surely you can just kind of work it out from the context. Yeah. So I'm with you. I actually agree with you, and that's you probably have summarized my challenge better than I have myself, because how much do I rely on the Australians, and I'd say the South Africans, even the Italians will contextualize. Largely the Americans do so less. And I've been sort of playing around in my mind. I'm not sure if it's because we get exposed to American TV and expressions and whatever, so we can contact, but they don't necessarily get exposed as much to ours. Yeah. So they haven't actually heard a lot of our expressions before. So, how much do I pander to that? But yeah, I think you, as I say, you've probably summarized the problem better than I did.
I don't know about better, Glenda, at all, but yeah, and perhaps we've had at times Australians a cultural cringe over the years, because of course we've got our English and European context in literature. And Australian literature hasn't been, up there on the World Forum for given the same recognition as those. And so we have had for many years on the syllabus languages and books from other cultures other than our own. And we're fighting, in fact, in our universities to get our Australian books recognised. So we've certainly bent over backwards to accommodate other cultures and other expressions. And many of us, if you watch even some of the quiz shows on our television, they ask US questions about US cities and US rivers. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, I don't have that detailed knowledge of America, but it's assumed you do.
Yeah.
Can I even add to this as far, look, this is really, like, I don't know a huge amount about this, but even as far as I know, when I was young, like in English, you know how we've got autocorrect now. When you've got the American, we'll use the word colours, for example, OURS or ORS. And example, I notice a lot of the kids today are calling lollies candy as opposed to lollies, as we would call them. Like a majority of, like even my niece and nephew calls it candy because of all the YouTube videos and the exposure to American television and social media and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's just something I've observed as well. Like, and even some of them have American accents in their voice.
Yep.
Because of the amounts of social media they've been exposed to, like that, you can hear like a tone of American accent in their voice because of how much they've seen. Yeah. So I just wanted to add that because I found that quite interesting myself. Yeah. So, and the Z and the S and yeah, like which is the right way, because I remember, like, I know, correcting myself and spelling it the English way because it was more, I guess, acceptable back then. These days it's sort of either either. So which way do you go with that? Like if you were to write a book that's you know, going to be targeting, say, Australia as well as America, what spelling would you use? Would you use American spelling or Australia, the English?
We've proudly gone
And I mean, and that's an overarching question as well. Now, for me, because I guess I come from more English origin countries, I just could not bring myself to put Z and spell color without it.
Yeah, well, I changed it to S as well.
For me.
Yeah.
So that would be a personal thing. But some of the other things where I'm less attached. Some of the other things where I'm less attached. So yeah. Look, I appreciate your comments. It makes me feel a bit better because I'm not totally insane. And sometimes I feel like I'm being told to make it American, or that I have to because it's the right way to go.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you get the final choice. You get to choose. If you either accept or reject their suggestions, so it's up to Justine.
From a publishing point of view, you could do two different ones. So you could do the Australian version and publish that in Australia, and you could do the American version and publish that in America.
And the Italian version.
That's an interesting thought.
And then you can get it translated into all the different languages. So how it works in Amazon, and that is you would then list it just on Amazon US, and it'd be printed through their printing press, Ingram Spark or KDP over in America. Ours would come out of Melbourne. Here, Italy, it would go there out of the European Ingram Spark. So that's something else that you could do. So you do, you translate it into each language and then print it, get it published in each independent country.
Which would make sense.
That's just my
That's an interesting concept, because it's really an interesting concept what you've just said there, though, because you've said translated into different languages. And what we're basically saying is that we're getting more and more versions of English because it's becoming almost like different languages or dialects or whatever, which is interesting.
If you put a video up onto YouTube, all right, you then pick what language that it's in, and English will come up with 5 or 6 different English, which one you want it.
Yeah.
So it's across the board. It's everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, no, it is. And that it's just, and then we're introducing emoji language as well into English now, which is almost another dialect itself. But that's,
I think right now the key for everyone else is not to get bogged down by spelling or grammar. Just do it. Then you can worry about it. When you're at the stage of blenders up, then you can start to think about that sort of stuff. So
no, I just want to clarify, it's not so much the spelling or the grammar though, it's actually how far to go in terms of defining expressions and words and that type of thing. So it's not the grammar and the spelling, you can decide which way you go, but it's, I think, and it's something that's relevant to whether it's English or American. But I think it's relevant even just within Australia. How far my question is, how far do you go in terms of explaining something that you may think other people do or don't know? Does that make sense?
Well, personally, I actually hadn't even taken it into consideration, but then I'm very, very new to all this, so.
Well, again, I think it's and that's part of the editing process. You know, when you get to that point, you, as Glenda's finding, you get an editor that's making suggestions, and I think how far do you go? That's a decision you've got to make, Glenda. You've got to decide: is that too much? Is that too much explanation? Is it overkill? And if you feel like it is, then you leave it as you want it. There's no right or wrong here, and no matter. Let me just tell you this: no matter how many times you edit your book, you'll never be happy with it. There'll always be something.
Thanks for that.
No, seriously. You'll read. You can edit forever. Trust me. I mean,
Yeah, I believe that.
every time you edit, you find something. Oh, I better read it one more time. No, I better read it. No. There's a time where you just say, nah, that's it. That's it. So you just got to go. Yep, this is it. This is good enough. This is as good as I'm going to get it. And is it going to be perfect? Nah, probably not. Are there going to be some people that maybe don't understand certain bits? Yeah, possibly. But that's just, it doesn't matter how many times you edit or change or polish. You'll
You
never
send yourself crazy through
never
that
get it
process
right
as
for
well.
never get it right for everyone.
Yeah.
So
No, thanks, Andrew. That was encouraging. I mean, I am finding it a fun process though. So just for those that are going into the editing process, it is fun. It's actually really nice because it's challenging me to look at my own work differently. So it's really cool and it's really fun.
But and it is what it is, Glad. It's fun because you're just so close to that being in a book and out into the world. That's the fun part of what you're now doing is you bake. I talk about you bake the cake. You're now icing it and polishing it and getting it ready to present. And that's fun.
It is fun.
It's fun. Well done. Thank you for all that. And I think that opened up some conversation that was good.
Thanks, everyone.
Anyone else got thoughts? Need any help? Need any encouragement?
Can I share what I've been doing?
Yes,
Because
please.
I haven't been on in a couple of months. So I put together an anthology book for people with MS in Australia. I spoke about this, I think, a couple of months ago. So it's actually come through. I've had 6 chapters submitted over the weekend. I've been working in a writing group with them 3-4 times a week. It's had its challenges because we're at all abilities and lots of cognitive issues as well. So I'm actually, some of them I've interviewed, got transcripts. I'm editing and rewriting chapters for them because there's some that can't use their hands in order to type for it as well. So we've got 6 ready. I'm using Karen Guest as our editor. And Karen came through this group. So it's been fantastic to be working with Karen. And I just got back this evening the first chapter edited. Yeah. So that's just an amazing experience to be a part of. So they've got to the 3rd of June to finish their chapters. MS Australia is still yet to write theirs, and Ugly Phil is contributing one as well. He's a radio personality in Sydney. And then I realized that I've got to write mine. So I've started writing it. But
there's an MS week coming up, isn't there, Justine?
So in May is MS month, and I'm doing a webinar on the 30th of May with one of the other authors actually in the book. And we're doing a wellness webinar for anyone that wants to look after their mental well-being and the fuel that they put in their body. So we're doing that on World MS Day being the 30th, and it's a free webinar. Anyone can jump into it. The children's book, I'm waiting for the charity to sign off on the contract. They haven't done that yet. They're waiting for a board meeting or something, and it's at the solicitors. So that's still coming through. The legalities of it all, and I've rewritten their book 6 times so far. So I had a chuckle to myself when you were talking about editing, Andrew, because last night I'm like, that's it. I might have actually been about 7 times. I am not adding anything more to it. And then because I've got to illustrate, so I've got to make sure that everything is right before I can start illustrating, because if I start doing the wrong picture, that's a waste of time as well. So that one's supposed to be coming out in October, but if they don't sign that contract in the next week, it'll be pushed through to November. So I think that's about. Oh, and Ireland, I'm off to a writing retreat in Ireland in November. So I'm doing Andrew's one in Bali. Can't wait for that. Ooh. And then I'm doing one in November in Ireland with Fergie. So and my book has been submitted to Fergie to read. So my children's book. So fingers crossed. I'll be having a word with her in Ireland for her to read on her YouTube channel. So she does children's books. She reviews children's books and reads them. So fingers crossed that we get
That's awesome. Well
the
done.
Duchess to do that. So you never know where your books are going to take you.
That's awesome. Good
That's
on you,
about it.
Justine. Just continually inspiring and humbling everyone, and intimidating as well, I must admit.
And thanks for putting up with me. Thanks for putting up with me, Andrew, because you and I chat every week. And
I know, like, I'm
through
like,
Andrew's encouragement, I've just started writing my book again. So finding time to do that.
really, that's the only one I've been encouraging you to write. All the other ones you just decide to write.
Oh, what have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Books, and I'm just going, write your story for goodness sake.
I've done 5. That's
Oh,
in 2 years. So
Wow.
yes. Anyway,
look, this is a journey, everyone. It's a journey. The whole process from where you are, Alana, right now, going, oh, what do I do? How do I do it? To someone like Justine.
I've got another book coming out too. That's in November. So
Okay.
that's the podcast book that you're actually in, Andrew. So
that'll be a bestseller then. And it is, look, every stage of this journey, you want to just learn to love it. I think if you can learn to love writing, if you can learn to love even when you feel stuck, because it's just part of the process of achievement. Like, and every single person here has overcome something. You've all been stuck somewhere. You've all had to work it out and overcome it. And, and if you just keep going, you get there. If you just keep going, you will, Alana, you'll be where Justine is. And I know, we were chatting yesterday, Alana, weren't you? And you recognize and realize that, you had connected with Justine, and you look at Justine like she's a bit of a rock star, like a lot of us do.
Oh, very inspiring.
But
Very inspiring.
Here's the deal. Justine doesn't think she's a rock star. She's just someone who's had a crack and has kept going. And has dealt with more obstacles and adversity than most people will.
Amazing.
But will keep getting up and keep going because that's what drives her. And I think, rather than look at obstacles as oh no, why me? It's like, okay, cool. What can I use?
there's always something positive that will come out of adversity. You may not realize it at the time, but when you're faced with an adversity, you're actually faced to think outside your normal box.
Yeah, right.
Normal square, your normal box. So some of my best decisions I've made and some of my best business decisions and that have come from when I have faced major adversities in my life.
Yeah, I totally agree.
How can I get out of the shit that I'm in?
Do or die.
It forces you to think outside of what you would normally do on a routine basis.
Yeah. And I must admit, I was keenly involved with the MS readathons as a kid, always raising money for it.
Thank you.
Interesting as well. Yes.
That's awesome. And I mean, look, I look at, we've got our UK connection here. We've got Chris, who's been blessed with MS and using that now to inspire and help people. We've got Steve, Stephen, who's, you know, is disabled, but he's used that to. Steve, how many Paralympics have you been in now? Is it 6?
He's not.
He's fallen asleep. We've bored him. But I mean, I don't know how many Paralympics is a multiple gold winning Paralympian. Like,
I'm going to the World Championships, so you can all cheer
I actually
for
watch
me.
the Paralympics at times. What do you mind if I ask what his disability is?
Stephen, are you there?
Is that too personal if he's not here, or
You'll be able to Google him.
okay? What was his?
I think
Miller.
he's got.
Oh, Stephen Miller is in chat.
Yeah. He'll be back. We'll get him. We'll get him in a sec. Anyway, we'll come back to him. But I guess what I'm saying is, yeah. I guess what I'm saying is, you know, and every one of us could tell our stories, right? Couldn't we? We could all tell our stories of adversity and challenges and stuff like that. Someone just disappeared. Who disappeared?
He's got cerebral palsy.
Okay.
So, and this, you know, he inspires me every time I chat to him. You know, he's just such an uplifting guy, and you know, obviously he's got his speech is impacted by his disability, but he can write amazingly well. You know, it's amazing. I just think, wow, there's potential and capacity that every one of us has. And sometimes you need something, a challenge to prove to you that you're capable, that you have this capacity to do more and be more. And I mean, Chris, share us a bit about how you've used your, and I'm not going to call it disability, because you wouldn't call it a disability.
No.
What would you call it? A gift? Giftability.
Well, no, different. I think the word disability is a very negative word. I would like to see that as a different ability.
Yeah.
Because we
all
have
abilities. All abilities.
Yeah. So it's got to be, it's got to be positive, isn't it? Why should it be negative? I mean, with me, I see my journey with multiple sclerosis, which is, almost 21 years now since diagnosis, as a massive learning curve. The bad years, in a way, were the most informative and learning years that I could have ever gone through. And with that new knowledge, I've come out of that, and I've gone from wheelchair to walking, using a new approach, and I want to spread that to the world. It's not about MS for me. It's about good health for as many people as I can possibly encourage.
That's awesome, mate. That's awesome.
Me.
Wonderful. Okay.
With your good health, Chris, is it an acronym? Is there 5 pillars? Are there 3 things that you particularly stand for, or how do you describe good health?
Well, I think I like to use the little acronym, the sort of the work I do, creating your happier, healthier human, if you like. And I think that the 6 pillars of lifestyle approach of sleep, exercise, harmful substances, all of that sort of stuff. But at the basis of everything for me, and I look, I'm not saying that this is a given for everybody, but at the basis of most bad habits, I believe there's a trauma that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be brought out into the open for lasting change to happen. Yeah, because otherwise that trauma will always niggle and encourage you, like a little voice whispering in your ear hole, to go back to, that thing that you used as a crutch or a mask to mask that trauma.
Wow.
Has that answered your question, sir? No.
I think we might maybe some. I think Justin's got some internet issues.
Oh, okay.
Justin, you there?
Stephen had to go to the loo. He's back.
Steve, hey Steve, are you back?
We
were having a conversation with you and you weren't there.
Yeah, I was desperate. I had to go. I couldn't away. I thought you would notice that I could get away with it. It's typical, isn't it? As soon as you go away, people want to talk to you.
Yeah, very typical.
When you got to go, mate, you got to go. So, mate, the
Yeah.
question was, how many Paralympics have you competed in?
I competed in 6 Paralympics from
That's incredible.
96 through to 2016. So,
That's
yeah. So, I'm still trying to compete. Even though I'm getting old now, I'm still trying to compete. So.
I can hear
I think we're having some problems with Justin. Justin, you there?
I think it is.
Thanks, Stephen. That's awesome, mate. Well done. Anyone else got any thoughts, questions, any breakthroughs, anything you need some help with? I mean, this is a great thing about this forum. This is why we're here. We're here to help each other. So anyone got any questions or anything they want to ask?
Oh, I've been just happy to listen to begin with at this stage. So thank you, everyone. And I'll have a chat with you throughout the week as well, Martine, as I said. I mean, Justine, not Martine.
Yeah. All right, I answer to anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been called worse.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
a few come to mind that they do.
Yeah.
I think it's important when you're writing your books as well to think of the end goal. It makes it easier. Why are you writing your book? What do you want to achieve out of it? When people say to me, oh, you get so much done, you must have more hours in the day and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I have goals set constantly of what do I want to achieve today, what do I want to achieve this week, what do I want to achieve this month, when am I going to get this one done, when am I going to get that one done. I always have lists of what I'm working on throughout the week, like that was last week's list, that's this week's list.
Yeah. I'm a list person as well.
And that helps with, you know, your timelines of what you want done, when you want to do it. Otherwise you just keep working and you don't get that end result.
Yeah.
So true. Always, I think that's a great point, Justine. Is just always revisit your vision, always go back to why am I doing this, particularly in those stuck moments. And I think if you haven't got it, pictures stuck on your wall, or something that's in your face every day, I think you're doing yourself a disservice.
Have you gone into the bookstores and envisioned what your book's going to look like on the bookshelves? Because if you haven't, why haven't you? Go in there and think about what color you want your book, what size you want your book, what it's going to smell like when you open it up for the first time. Vision where it's going to sit in that bookstore.
And what are you going to say at your book launch?
Yeah.
Who are you going to thank? And
where are you going to have your book launch?
Yeah, so true. And look, the other thing I would recommend you is design a cover for it. Even now, like just don't, and put it up on your vision board. Design a cover for your book. Now, the title may only be a working title, but it doesn't matter. The more you see it, the more you'll live it.
I hadn't even got to that part yet. I thought about titles. No, sorry.
Yeah.
The front cover to the family.
Siri's talking to me now.
Sorry. So are you saying something? No. Okay.
What are you working on, Andrew? 'Cause,
Well-
you know, it's all about us. What book are you working on?
Well, I'm working on 2 at the moment. You know about one of them.
I do.
One
I forgot about that letter
yes, you do. Thank you.
on my list.
One of them is a book for a foundation. They've commissioned me to write a book. It's called the Magical Getaway Foundation, and they effectively they send people, disadvantaged, abused people, on their first holiday. And it's amazing that you would think to send a family away for their first ever holiday wouldn't be that big a deal, but it's absolutely transformational. Some of the what that does for these families. So I've been writing a chapter on different people, and just some of the stories are horrendous, and what they've overcome or what they've been through, and what the holiday's done for them. So that's one. And the other book is, I mean, as over my life as a how do I say this, as a flawed male with some pretty firmly entrenched and negative stereotypes and behavior patterns, just to learn more about me as a man, particularly over COVID and coming out of a marriage at the end of 2019 and having to face me. I've learned a lot. So I'm writing a book about men, for men and women. I'm calling it, at the moment, working title is a user guide for men and women. So I think men and women need a user guide for men.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%.
So yeah.
My latest philosophy is I'm not his rehab.
Yeah, Mr. Fix It.
I am not his rehab. They've got to come to me now,
Yeah.
already fixed.
No, Mr. Fix It, like I have a solution for all your problems. Will you just listen, will you? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, look, I just think, and you've all heard me say this before, there's nothing bad in life, it's all content. And I believe it, like every single day when something happens, and I just think, how can I use this in a blog or a book, or, because life just gives you gifts every day, doesn't it? Lessons, and what seems to be bad is, I don't know who said it. I think, Chris, you said it. Everything, there's positives in everything. There's nothing bad. It's all just content for your next book. And I think all of us have got reams of content, haven't we? Really?
Yeah, I would like to stop getting more content.
Yeah, I'm like, where do I start with all mine?
Yeah.
Where do I start? And then I'm jotting this down. I'm on my notes in my phone, and then I think of this, and I think this is going from one book to the next. This can't all fit in one book. This is another topic. This is this, and like, I forgot about that. Oh, and then that triggers me to think about that. Oh, then there's this. I'm just like, just breathe.
Breathe, Alana, breathe. So the thing is, and I think everyone here that's writing, once you get your book, your first book, because you're all going to write multiple books. Once you get your first book planned, right? Like when you're clear about this book, what impact I want this book to have on the reader. Once you have an outline written and you know the flow of the book, the chapters, what's going to go in it, then that's the key. I really believe that's such a key part of this, because so many people just start writing. I've got stuff everywhere. I've been writing and I've got a girl who's in a similar position, Alana. She's coming to Bali too. And she's got, she's had she got hit by a car. She's 24 years ago or something like that, and acquired brain injury. And
I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said, I've got so much written, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do with it. And it's about stopping, breathing, and saying, what outcome do I want this book to have on the reader? What do I want? What do I want to create with this? And once you get clarity around that, and then you can work backwards to map it out. That was for me the most important part of becoming an author for the first time, was having that very structured outline that I look at and go, yep, and I know what's in it, and I can stop thinking, because otherwise you're thinking all the time, does this sound good? Where should I go now? What should I write next? But when you've got the outline, you can just go, okay, I know it. And then I can just let it flow out of me. It's there. It's already there. It just needed a little bit of corralling. It just needed a little bit of a path. And then then you let it flow. So you've got, Alana, so much stuff in you. You know what you've got. Everything in you is your experiences. You don't need to think about your life. You've experienced your life.
Yeah.
You just have to know what bits of your life you want to tell that will tell the story that will inspire the lessons for people
Exactly.
to make the change they want.
That's right.
That'll come. That will come. We and I are catching up. We'll talk on Monday.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that process.
Yeah, because I have come across something. I thought, no, that's definitely, there's no point putting that in there. Like, you can leave that out, and okay, no, well, that's powerful, but well, there's a good point there. But no, that's unnecessary. That's so you're right.
Yeah. It's all good.
Yeah.
You're in good company here. You're in good.
Yeah. Thanks everyone.
Thank you for that, Andrew, for reminding me. And Justin, that was a key to me saying we sat every day and we continued. We had the outline with Andrew. We had every chapter, the title, the message, the examples. And we divided into part one, part two, part three. And then which of us felt particularly strongly towards the content of that chapter. Well, you do that one, I'll do this one, and we divided it up like that. But each day when I sat to the desk, I reread. I call it reading my way back in. I reread yesterday, and for me, I printed off when I finished my little session in the office. I'd print off those words for that day because I'm a visual person, and I watched the book build with the printed off pages. I read yesterday's till I got into the zone and thought, this is how I move it forward for today's little version. And it was always within that outline that we had constructed from the beginning. So I watched it grow, but it was never a feeling then once we got that of, I have no idea what we're doing next. Yeah. So thank you. I'd forgotten about that process.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. There's Laura in Bali.
I was about to say, is that Laura? Hi,
Laura in Bali. Well, we've got a we're doing an info session for Bali for anyone that wants to hang around straight after this.
Oh, so, jump in.
Yeah, this is the forum. You're welcome to jump in, Laura.
Hello, Laura.
You know Terry, you know Alana.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've spoken to Justine before, but you will meet Justine. She's coming to Bali. Alana's coming to Bali. Chris is in the UK. Give us a wave, Chris. This is Laura. Laura's in Bali. Laura's my ex-wife.
Oh, is that you? Are you the ex-wife, Laura? Hello.
She's the ex-wife.
I didn't know that.
She's the ex-wife.
I didn't put two and two together.
And Sue and Justin are in Geelong.
Hello, I can't see anyone actually.
Oh,
but I'm
can't
just
you? Oh, because you're on your. Oh, okay.
Excuse me, I've just had a swim in the pool. My hair's all. I can't see anyone though.
Oh, okay.
I can see you. That's all.
All right. Well, there's 10 people here. So
anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just actually thought I'd get in earlier because but yeah, keep going. Sorry, because
we're wrapping up now anyway. So so thank you everyone for being here. As I said, there is going to be a 30-minute info session for Bali. So if you want to hang around, you're more than welcome to. If not, that's okay as well. What we might do, we might go out. I might close this meeting and I'll start it up again. Yeah, just because I need to visit the little boys' room.
So do I, actually.
Yeah. And then if you want to join the, I think it's the same link. It's the same link in about 5 minutes. Or 3.
Okay.
So
6 minutes. 6 minutes.
6 minutes. So thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone.
And good to see you. And we'll see you either.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.